Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron.
There you go, podcast.
I forgot I was
We're
supposed to
tightening
do
it
that.
up. Hey, this time I remembered. You're bloody welcome. Yeah, I mean, I was firing that off like just ba 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 in my head whilst walking over to sit down and do this, but that's neither here nor there, and you don't need to know about that. So yeah, this is the Horn and Cauldron podcast, your podcast solution to all things witchy, magical, heathenry, occult, and otherwisely, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So
metaphysical
and stuff, dude. Let's get metaphysical. Is that how that song goes?
It is now.
Yeah.
It is now.
Well, damn it. Now I want to rewrite the lyrics to that song. Okay, well, I got to stop thinking about this or it's going to take over my mind. And we're not going to be able to talk about Midsummer, which is what we're talking about right now. If you are new to our podcast, please subscribe. If you are listening to this on a podcast thing, these come out every other week. And if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff. All the stuff that we all tell you to do. I guess because they told us to tell you to do that. I would love to say so we can get paid, but I'm not making no money.
We're definitely
on this.
not making money off of this. So.
Arguably, I'm kind of hemorrhaging money doing this.
Yeah.
What with the monthly fees to afford the editing software and such like that. But that's neither here nor there, right?
And if you're listening to this on a podcast service, make sure to leave us a review.
Yeah, leave us a review.
Other people find us. Yeah. And if you really like what we're doing, check out our links page at nerdjive.com, where it gives you links to our social media as well, our Etsy shop, and our Patreon. And we
social
even have
media,
a special
and
Coven
Patreon.
level Patreon. And that's not to try to make a buck off of you guys. It just helps us to, if you like what we're doing, this helps us to do it a little bit better.
Again, technically, you're the one that's profiting on this deal. I'm behind, but we get Book of Shadows pages, so it takes somewhere between a week and several months because I'm behind because I found a couple that I apparently missed, and I don't know how. I have a very particular file structure, and I messed it up, and I'm the one that invented it, but that's fine. Whatever, I'm busy often, stressfully so. But, so we make these, rad Book of Shadows, but they're, over there. One of these days I'm going to remember to, bring them so I can show you on the thing.
It's a podcast. They can't see.
But if you're watching us on
YouTube,
the YouTube people can. And if you would like to look at our stupid faces while you listen to us yell, then you can check us out on YouTube. The full podcast is up there. I actually engineer these for YouTube and then simply extract the audio secondarily. But yeah, you join our Patreon. You get access to the Book of Shadows pages as well as dope wallpapers because when I remember to do it, I do dope wallpapers for our from the graphics I had to design for our Book of Shadows pages to make fun cell phone wallpapers because that's my hobby, I guess. And they're fucking so cool, man.
They're really fun.
The new ones that I just did that are going to be going up today on Patreon, the day that we're recording this on Patreon, are really rad. I'm super into them.
Yeah, the Thor ones you made are
Thor ones are
1980s,
dark and stormy, they're tight, dude.
Metal cover.
Yeah, they're fucking badass,
wild.
Dude. You look at it and you can hear the just the sweet guitar riffs.
You're like somebody's playing Dio somewhere.
Yeah.
When you look at the
you make Dio proud. But and as well as you get access to our witchy Discord where it's direct access to talk to us and do all that kind of stuff.
Ask questions
and we can share and learn in
discuss
all of that witchy gangsterness.
Yeah.
So but I guess I'm done with all that commercial shit.
So let's get into it.
Yeah. So if you didn't catch that at the top, we're talking about Midsummer, not the movie. But I might also reference the movie. It's a really fun movie. So, yeah. Yeah,
so Midsummer is also called Litha, Litha, or the Summer Solstice. Technically, that was yesterday for us, and earlier this week for those of you that are tuning in right on time. But that doesn't mean that you can't still celebrate Midsummer.
Yeah.
Technically, the Summer Solstice is the longest day of the year, and it usually falls between June 19th and 22nd in the Northern Hemisphere.
Wow.
And December 19th through 22nd in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
And it's pretty common to celebrate Litha on the summer solstice, but really any time in there is super okay. There are many cultures that celebrate this holiday either on the first full moon after the summer solstice, or there's a lot of them that actually celebrate it on the 24th of June every single year. So you've got like a whole week to celebrate Midsummer, which is honestly how I like to celebrate things, is to like do it for a whole week.
Party for a whole week. Rock and roll.
I mean, it's like that birthday month joke, but instead it's like pagan festivals. And I mean, really, historically, like most festivals were more than one day. You know, you had people traveling, they didn't have like cars or anything like that. They were on foot, maybe on some sort of livestock, and by the time that they got to a place, they're like, well, I'm not just going home tonight. They're gonna party it up all night.
Yeah.
And maybe also into the next day and the next night and the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I had to replace a light, and it was easier to just do this than pause and re-edit the video. It's a whole fucking thing. So,
Midsummer.
Just go with it.
So Midsummer has been celebrated throughout the world since the Neolithic times, which began in 12,000 BCE. So that's for 14,000 years.
Yep.
People have been celebrating that, and the formation known as Stonehenge is very specifically aligned to catch the summer sun in a very specific place at the height of the summer solstice.
Yeah, I don't think that they do it anymore. And bear with me on this. It's actually been quite a while since I've been to Stonehenge, because I've been maybe twice. Or something. I don't remember. But I believe that they used to, like, and I mean like modernly used to, like in the 80s used to actually like do ceremonies and stuff there. I don't think they do anymore. You used to also just like go into the field and like touch the rocks and such. And now, or at least again, the last time that I went several years ago, there's like a little like circly path that you get to go down, because like almost everything that used to be dope and is now not dope, lame people ruined it for us because they're lame.
Yeah, dumb people ruin things.
Legit, because I do remember when I was there, our tour guide said that like it used to be like way more open, and like they had to shut it down because people were like chipping pieces of the rock off.
That's
and
so
it's
dumb.
like, what kind of asshow is
Yeah.
doing this to a World Heritage site? You
Yeah,
know,
preserve it,
that's like going into like the Sistine Chapels and being like, I'm gonna take a little chunk of this wax off this candle here in the middle of a sermon or some shit. Like, what kind of asshole? So yeah, don't do that. Don't fuck up shit for the future, guys. Jeez, I can't believe I have to say that. What's happening? What's wrong with these people?
So Midsummer and Litha are kind of like this yearly celebration that really ties into Beltane, which is a celebration right before it, and a little bit into Lammas, which is the celebration right after it. Yeah. As we've learned with these like pagan Sabbats, is that one of them kind of inherently ties into the other two, and some cultures would celebrate one but not the other. So there's a lot of sort of shared things that you get between Midsummer and Beltane.
Let's be perfectly fair here. All blots or festivals or holidays or whatever you want to call them are gonna have some overlapping stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, there's always going to be a fire involved. There's always going to be, you know, like everything kind of...
There's always feasts and fires.
There's always feasts. Yeah. There's no celebration. There's not a celebration of eating a small meal. That's not a celebration. I mean, you can make it a celebration. At least not on a
pagan side of things.
Yeah, you can make it a celebration.
Like, if that's your personal thing, ain't no hate. That's you. You do you.
We have huge amounts of food. We do big blots. When we did blots.
Yeah, which hopefully we'll be able to start doing again.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe not right away. It still feels very weird to be around.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, but maybe the next one.
Yeah,
you know, if everything's still doing good and people aren't like increasing assholes or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. And obviously, like when you think about the sort of like smooth transition across the year, right? It's not like, oh, yesterday was summer, today's winter, and it's snowing. That's not.
Although in California, you have those like false springs where it's like cold,
we have,
and then the very next day it's like hot, and you're like, "Where's the tank taps at?"
Like I know that it's hot now and rainy.
Like
we don't really have seasons. We have water and less water.
We have green and brown.
Yeah.
We have two seasons in California.
But like the smooth transition between green and brown, the death of plants because the sun hates us. I prefer the dark and the rain, clearly. But, like, logically, because there's that smooth transition, you also have that, like, sort of transitional connections between different blots, or festivals, or whatever you want to call them. I'm going to call them blots because that's just the term that I use. But you have this smooth transition between the blots, and so there would be, like, logical overlap just because of the nature of what a blot celebrates.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So, Litha celebrates abundance, and it celebrates growth and fertility and solar energy, and is actually a really popular time to do magic as far as, like, magic goes, because of the power of the sun. It's that flare you've got there.
Yeah. It's because it's hot. And we had to turn the fans off, so that way you don't hear, like, "Hoo" all the time, because the fucking fan is like the loudest thing in the house.
Yeah, for those of you listening but not watching, he's got like a hand fan.
Yeah, I have a hand fan.
And it is all over the place.
You can't hear it.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
He's got the vapors. So,
I am a dainty southern belle, said nobody ever. Relax.
So much like with other Sabbats, this also coincides with a Christian feast, and the corresponding Christian feast day is Saint John the Baptist, and this really kind of falls in line with a lot of those like Christianization of Europe things that we talk about when we look at the Sabbats. For those of you that have been listening, this is a pretty common thing that I bring up, and for those of you that haven't listened, now you know.
Yeah, go listen to the rest of them. You're going to hear it a bunch of times.
Yeah, so the first mention of St. John's festivities, not St. John himself, but the festivities associated with his feast was in the 13th century, which falls pretty much right on the timeline of the Christianization of Europe.
100 years before he was born, they started
happened.
partying about this guy. It's not true. Don't listen to me.
I mean, you know, maybe. And actually, in the Middle Ages, it was really, really popular to celebrate St. John the Baptist. Like, a huge party. The idea is, like, Jesus was born, like, Christmas, and that's a big party, right? And St. John the Baptist is born in, like, the summer, like, 6 months before Jesus, so that's also a huge party.
Yeah, is that why they party?
That's basically, there's a whole bunch of like he's beginning and I'm ending stuff that I don't really understand, because I'm not looking into St. John the Baptist. I'm looking into Midsummer.
That's fair. Okay, that's
but
fair. Yeah.
it was a huge.
What do you know about St. John the Baptist? Share it.
It was a huge thing to celebrate this and like all out in the Middle Ages, and they would have feasts. Like they would literally people, not just even noble people, but especially noble people, would take tables like their feast table from inside their feast hall, and they would carry their feast table out to the front door.
I mean, they beat people to carry it for them, but you know what I mean.
They would carry...
I was gonna say they pay people, and I was like, they're not paying people. Is that how this works? Yeah.
They would carry the feast table out the front door, and they would just like set up with like imagine a yard sale, but with food, or like a buffet table, like with food, it's just like out,
and
and they would just hang out and then just eat, and then people would just stop by and just eat off of their table, party, and move on. It was very, very common, and even poorer people did that as well, and with whatever rations that they had. So it was very common to celebrate with these types of like public sort of potluck feasts.
Yeah, totally. Well, and we have we do a feast with honoring St. John the Baptist and St. John the Evangelist in the Masons. Mm-hmm. We have our table lodges about that, which is like a big feast with all sort of pomp and circumstance and ceremony and such like that. So you can see where the whole St. John like feast thing. It's like it's in like. Yeah. All walks of life, in like all like iterations of this celebration. They're just like, what's your name, John, and you're a saint? Let's have some food about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and if you had been like
Let's have a taco bar about that.
fermenting alcohols, particularly like spirits, over the winter, they would now be ready.
Yeah, well, I mean, you
so
ferment alcohol and then distill it into spirits, but yes.
Yeah, so if you had been doing that, then it would be like super ready by now. But so we would have feasts, and then there would be songs, and there were games.
We got that bloody turlet. We got that turlet wine that I fermented. That's like. We just pulled out of the fridge the other day, and because Julie was cleaning the fridge out, and I don't know if I said our names. I'm John. She's Julie. Whatever. I'll throw the tag in or whatever earlier. But she was like, "Is this stuff still good?" And I'm like, "I mean, it's in the fridge and it's got a boatload of alcohol, but maybe like there was a bunch of fruit in it, so it's pretty sweet." And we tried it, and it will put hair on your chest. Yeah. Dang, it is hot. I mean, it's also still incredibly sweet and incredibly cloying. It's one of those things that I fermented that just has to be cut with like a seltzer water.
It feels like it's actually more alcoholic than the plum vodka that I make.
Yeah, and that's just vodka and plums. So that's impossible.
Yeah.
Right? Because I fermented just like fruit and honey and I made like a fruit mead that's just get you fucked up.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's good. It's super
pink,
tasty.
So we like to call
we call it pink drink. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there were feasts and there were songs and people would play games and there would be bonfires and there would be just like parades and there would be plays. Hello, Midsummer Night's Dream. And there would also be fireworks. So it was like a huge summer festival. Yeah. So you can really see how that like kind of carries through the path of time where it was pagan and then the Christianization of Europe happened. And then that kind of like subsisted for a while, but then the more modern age took over and now we just have kind of like summer parties.
Yeah. Well, a good way to think about it is like if we're talking about like a Western Hemisphere feast party thing and fireworks come up, it's modern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we didn't invent those.
Yeah.
Guys.
Well, it also there are also some of the more like ancient pagan type of things that were popular.
I mean, bonfire, fireworks.
Yeah, we're like gathering herbs and as well as decorating with greenery and flowers. Honoring the Fae is still really popular in Midsummer.
Yeah.
Ritual baths, nude skinny dipping, hand fasting, and other fertility rituals.
What did who was it? Thomas Edison who used to do that? Air baths? We just wander around outside in the night naked?
Oh, I've definitely never heard of that.
Oh, man. Now I look like I'm making shit up over here.
You probably are.
No, you don't know about air baths? Oh, my God.
No, I don't
okay,
know
go
about
on to the next part. I'm gonna look it up to make sure. I think it's Edison, but it might be somebody else.
We're going to talk about ritual baths once he figures out this air baths thing. So, bonfires. We also saw bonfires for Beltane, and we pretty much see fires with everything. But it was really common to have a bonfire and then to jump over it. This once it died down, of course. And that is to purify yourself to avoid bad luck. It would attract abundance, and it would also protect the jumper from any like future things that would be happening. Nope.
No.
Not yet. I'm talking about bonfires. You gotta wait.
Bonfires.
And you also would walk over the embers. So as it died down further, and as the party got further, and you got drunker, you would walk on the embers of the fire to prove how faithful you were, because it wouldn't hurt you if you were very committed to your religion of choice. As a super common thing there.
Don't walk over the embers of a fire.
Yeah, please
unless
don't do that.
you are a professional or with a professional for doing this.
Yeah.
Getting drunk is not going to make you less fireable.
That is true.
You are very combustible, very fireable. You will burn. Don't do it.
Now, a lot of these traditional midsummer bonfires took place at the beach or like the water, right? For me being a Northern Californian, the beach means the ocean, but in this it also means like the beach at the lake, the beach at the river, that kind of thing.
Rivers have beaches.
So it was really common to have these bonfires at beaches, and they would be huge bonfires, right? And some bonfires were even actually made out of like old boats or handmade rafts, or sometimes a boat or a raft was made for this specific purpose. And they would just like push it into the water and light it on fire, and that was your midsummer bonfire.
I mean, that sounds like a way safer option than a fire on the beach.
Yeah, yeah. It's also a good way to get rid of an old boat that you can't use anymore.
Yep.
And then sometimes people wouldn't do a bonfire, or in addition to a bonfire, they would make a wheel out of, well, like old wheels, or also like giant wreaths shaped, well, in a circular wheel fashion with like spokes.
As opposed to
square wheels. As
Or
opposed to square wheels. And if you had these like solar wheels, as they were called, you would light the wheel on fire, and then you would roll it down the hill and let it splash into the water on the beach.
Okay, I'm gonna recommend you don't do that. Also,
yeah.
As our resident fire safety psycho, I'm gonna say don't set shit on fire and roll it in place. Don't set shit on fire unless you have a fire extinguisher. Certainly, don't move shit that's on fire. Be fire safe. I'm super serious, dude. I live in California. I don't need this shit.
Yeah. Please, before you do anything related to fire,
if you can do it safe, rolling wheel of fire, very fun.
That would be super fun. Yeah. So, tell me about
air
Thomas
baths.
Edison's
It's not Thomas Edison. It was Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, okay.
Dude, whatever. I was close. I was in the wheelhouse. For a fact that I guess is uncommon.
They're both old-timey famous dudes who did some important stuff.
We're not even gonna. Sounds like there's a pop quiz in your future about Thomas Edison and Benjamin Franklin. Pop quizzes. But yeah, he used to take air baths because he thought that it would help him like stave off sickness.
Well,
and he would just wander around naked in the nighttime, cleanse his body. I get it. It's hot right now because it's summertime, so I don't want to wear clothes. It's too hot.
I was gonna say, like, that makes sense because, like, vitamin D on your skin, but then you said at night, and I was like, oh,
you can collect vitamin D from the moon.
Now, it was also really popular for skinny dipping at night. So one of the things that people would do for Midsummer is they would take skinny dips, like ritually in. I feel like I'm using
I don't think that's the way that you say that at all. No, yeah.
So they would skinny dip at night, but you could also do like ritual baths during the daytime.
Yeah.
It was very common for the washing side of things for Midsummer to be a part of like celebrations or like magical times and other sort of workings.
I'm just gonna remind you, public indecency is a real crime. Don't take risks. You know?
Yeah, right.
The what's the standard sitcom skinny dip is like, we're gonna hop a fence and skinny dip. Like, what are you doing, man? That's how you get a criminal record as a teenager. Don't do that. It's too high risk.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
So, feasts are also super common. We've talked about feasts. They pretty much are with every one of them.
Yep.
And they would be celebrated with, of course, seasonally available foods. We'll talk some about that later on. We talked about the correspondences. And really, most importantly for Midsummer is, like, sort of the things that would fall in line with basically what a modern summertime celebration would be. So like barbecuing and smoking and grilling, and you would have fresh fruits and berries and vegetables, and you would have frozen treats as well. Frozen treats actually go a lot farther back than the invention of a refrigerator or a freezer. Yeah. So it's something that would be pretty common to have. So feasts definitely there. As we talked about, people would wheel their tables outside and then just feast it up.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's...
Block party style. Yeah. So gathering herbs is also a popular custom for Midsummer. There's actually a lot about gathering herbs on Midsummer. So herbs, especially medicinal herbs, were considered to be more powerful at this time of year. And part of that is a natural sort of thing.
They're like huge and fresh. I mean,
exactly. They're not...
our pineapple sage is bananas
It is
beefy
bananas
right now.
beefy, yeah.
So, like, this is the time to do herbs.
Whereas if you were harvesting herbs earlier in the year, you might be putting that particular plant at risk for over-harvesting. Later in the year, maybe it's already, like, gone to seed and the herbs aren't as good or there won't be quite as many. So there's a lot of reasons behind that. So gathering herbs was very, very intrinsic to this holiday. And people would gather the herbs that they would need essentially for the rest of the year. Yeah. So this was like, if you do like candles for Imbolc, herbs is Midsummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're back. Flowers.
Yeah. So
flowers are a type of herb.
Some flowers are considered herbs.
You mean some flowers are the flowers of herbs?
So some flowers are considered an herb, like chamomile.
I don't know that chamomile is considered an herb. I think it's just a flower.
I think it's considered an herb.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. All right, so
you putting chamomile in your lasagna over there?
That
little
would be...
chamomile lasag?
That would be pretty gross. But you know what I would want to have
would be pretty fucking gross.
Would be ice cream.
Yeah, but you can... I mean, you could put chocolate in ice cream, and chocolate's not an herb, so that's not...
I'm just saying, chamomile in ice cream.
Put tomatoes in lasagna, and tomatoes aren't an herb.
Yes.
Or are they? Because at one point in time, a tomato's a flower, and flowers are herbs, we just learned.
Well, tomatoes are fruits, so...
But all fruits are flowers.
In their newborn... Would you stop?
Am I confusing you?
You stop it with your science!
It's not... This isn't science.
And your math?
I know this isn't science because I know at least 10% of the things I just said were wrong.
So it was really popular to
we just gotta go right past
flowers during Midsummer also.
Whilst gathering herbs, one might also find like soft smelling, good, pretty, weird shaped things, and those are called flowers. So
jeez. Okay. Yeah. So it was super popular to also gather flowers like you would at Beltane. Yeah. And you would take these flowers and you would decorate your homes and your livestock with them, also with like herbs and other greenery. But you would also turn them into like crowns or wreaths.
In my mind, I'm just thinking of wrapping a cow in seaweed. Just like
that's gonna be
just like you're a very soft cow now.
like
in a day spa. So they'll just day spawn their cows.
I mean, maybe.
Seaweed's not an herb, or is it?
Happy cows make good milk.
That they say that.
Good milk comes from happy cows.
They say that too.
Good cheese comes from happy cows.
That's true.
Yeah, so...
Good eggs come from happy chickens, so...
That's true, and our chickens are super happy.
And they make good-ass eggs.
They do make good eggs. So, flowers. It was really popular to turn them into crowns and into wreaths. And in particular, it was common for men to wear, like, oak leaf or fern crowns. A lot of people kind of have this idea that, like, flower crowns are only for, like, ladies. That is definitely not the case.
That's horseshit. I love flower crowns.
Yeah, like, get it. Also, like, an oak leaf or, like, an ivy or, like, a fern crown. Super dope to do. We actually did those for our wedding for our guests to take with them. And in
Make sure you check for spiders first. You don't need hair spiders.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to check for spiders first. For everything. And in some cultures, these wreaths or crowns were floated or tossed into a body of water as part of a sort of like divination thing to learn who their future spouse was going to be.
Would one call this a ritualistic yeeting?
It would be a ritualistic yeeting. Yeah. People would ritualistically yeet these wreaths into a body of water. Sometimes a creek, sometimes a lake. Also, like, I guess it's a little bit of a game because, like, not all of these things are going to want to float. So...
Well, but is the point to float? Is the point to see who gets closest to the bonfire that's floating out there? Is it like bocce ball, but with a bonfire and flower crowns? A game that I now have to play since I've said it out loud?
The flower crown thing, like floating the wreaths, is more of a either good luck and appeasement to the fae. Mm-hmm. So that's one way that goes. And the other way is discerning who your future spouse is going to be. Mm-hmm. So in particular, this was really common in Slavic countries.
Because she runs out there, or he runs out there and grabs your
wreath, and then he returns it to you.
No, not this one. No good luck until I'm there.
Yeah, like in some Slavic countries, ladies would stand on like a bridge of like a river,
Yeah.
and then they would toss their wreath into the river.
Yeah.
And then downriver would be the boys, and they would grab the wreaths,
Yeah.
and then they would return it to the girl as sort of like a promise to marry. So
Going down to the river for Midsummer to grab some wreaths with your boys. Just grabbing wreaths with the boys.
yeah, we were just recently at a wedding, and in my mind, that's like how the like flower toss and like garter thing comes about.
Well,
It's
those
not
are,
actually.
those are
but
two incredibly separate things, the flower toss and the garter thing. But I seem to remember that they have like fairly well-known historical backgrounds.
They do. They
and they're like
definitely
particularly weird. I can't think of them off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've watched that episode of the History Channel or whatever.
Yeah,
I saw.
We'll
that
probably
on, but-
cover that when we talk more about hand fasting.
Yeah.
And other types of rituals, which is a perfect segue because hand fasting and fertility rituals was another really common thing to do during
Super
Midsummer. Thank you. So June was the most popular time for hand fasting and for wedding ceremonies. This actually goes back way far. This goes back all the way to like
popular
Greek
month
and
nowadays?
Roman times.
Is it as late as June?
It's still June.
Is it really?
Yeah, because a lot of people are still in school for May, so it makes it a lot more difficult
Who's
to
getting
plan.
married when they're in school? Like college?
Not necessarily for the people getting married, but you have to compete with graduation parties. Yeah, so June is like still the most popular month for weddings. And this goes back all the way to like Roman and ancient Grecian times. And June is a derivative of Juno, who is the Roman goddess of marriage and family, who is pretty close
Made a
to what
movie
the
about
Greek
her.
Hera is. Yes, I don't think it's actually about that, no.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah, so hand fasting is super popular to be during June, and in some Wiccan circles, it's like, well, the god and the goddess are getting married during May because that's when they conceive the baby, and so then you can get married in June, which is kind of an interesting way to, rationalize that.
Separate church and state there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. June, September, and October.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are the three biggest months, although technically May through October is wedding season.
Yeah.
I did not know any of that about weddings, specifically the wedding season part.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't care about weddings.
Well, we had a very different wedding too.
Well, that
So-
doesn't count. Yes, that doesn't
There's
count.
also that. So aside from hand fasting, it was also very popular to do divination around your future spouse. So who that person is going to be, dreaming about them, having them return your flower wreath, a lot of different things. And we've actually got a really
Tricking
great
him
spell.
with like a trap wreath.
Yeah, like a little bear trap.
Like an Acme brand trap wreath. So you're like, he got you. And then you just hit him in the head, take him back to the house.
Yeah, drag him back by the hair.
Yeah.
We've actually got a really great
Why do you
spell
think guys have
for
short
learning
hair?
who
So
your
we don't get
future true
dragged
love
back.
is.
No, I'm just kidding.
Because it's luxurious.
It's not. I look like a crazy person with my hair. It's something else.
So, Midsummer was purported to be the most active day for working, the most active day of the fairies of the whole year. And especially during the Middle Ages was this. Hence, we have A Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare, which, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it is a play by Shakespeare where there is a bunch of... Man, there is a bunch of stuff happening in this play, but
stuff
like
happens
basically like
faily.
like there's people who are trying to fall in love with people, and there's people who are trying to get some stuff done, and then fairies get involved and shenanigans ensue. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we were just recently talking about all the different like movie interpretations of this.
Yeah.
Even the ones that like aren't called A Midsummer's Night's Dream or whatever the heck.
Yeah.
And there's like a bunch of.
There's a ton of them.
This is. I feel like A Midsummer's Night's Dream is a Midsummer Night's Dream is like Beowulf levels of like people are like, you know what, I want to make a movie. What if I take this, change like 4 things, call it something else?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When I was acting, I actually acted in a Midsummer Night's Dream. I was the character who plays the wall.
You want the tree?
No, I was not the tree. I was a wall.
The dream?
I was a wall. It was great.
Was it one of those nightmare walls? I love when plays do that, where they do the stretchy fabric over the wall and your face gets to come out.
No, it was not a nightmare wall. It was very comical. I had a big cardboard box that I wore, like a la a robot costume. It was fun.
Were you a child in this?
I was like in middle school when we did that.
And the wall moved?
Yeah, because you're a person. So in A Midsummer Night's Dream, there's a troupe of people who are putting on a play.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people.
Okay.
And
you're the player
within
who becomes
the play.
Yeah. I thought you just meant you were a wall in the play, like the base play, not the Inception play.
No.
And I'm like, what do they just have too many kids? You're stairs. You're a wall. You're just noises in the background. Like, what's happening here? Okay, you're the player who's a wall. That now absolutely makes sense and doesn't sound like a hallucination. So,
well, less of a hallucination.
That's fair. Less of a hallucination.
Pretty insane. Yeah. So, it was. So the idea was that the veil was absolutely the thinnest during Midsummer, during the Middle Ages, and a lot of fae. Shenanigans was ensuing there, and there would be like people would leave out feasts for the fae at like fairy forts and circles. They would leave plates of food open for them, and as someone who works with the fae commonly, if you work with them and you've got food out, especially outside, and like they want some, like they're gonna get in on that. And any resulting shenanigans.
Yeah, they do love shenanigans.
They do love shenanigans. It's a fantastic time.
Restaurant.
Yeah. Another tradition that was popular in Europe was to search for the fern flower. So most midsummer celebrations took place in the middle of the day because it's like a solar thing, right?
They take place in like midsummer.
Yeah, they take place midday in midsummer. So it would be really popular for people to like get their party on and then just like wander off into a nearby forest to go searching for the fern flower. And in particular, this is kind of an interesting thing because to me, when I was reading about this, all I could think of was like horror movies, and they like wander off into the woods and then they get like murderized. I
can't imagine that happened that
I feel
often.
like searching for the fern flower is like some sort of like sexy time euphemism that like all of these research things aren't really picking up on.
I assumed it was something like hunting for a grumble or anything like that.
It is a lot like that.
It's
because
very...
ferns don't actually flower, so finding a fern flower would be impossible without some sort of magical help.
Sounds like you're not looking hard enough.
Well, that's where the fae come in there. So people would try to enlist the help of the fae to find a fern flower, and I don't know what people would come back out of the woods with if they said that they found a fern flower, just a random flower.
Yeah.
So it's
a random
really
flower
popular.
And a squirrel. They're just like, this thing helped me find this, and they're like, put them down. Put them both down. Homie, you've had too much. Put them down. Go home.
That is a squirrel.
Yeah.
We live in a society.
That is a squirrel and a chrysanthemum. Get out of here with that. Put your shirt back on, white boy. It's a Simple Dutch Bakery.
Yeah. So we celebrate Midsummer typically by having friends and family come over. We usually invite people over like all day.
Yeah.
And when we do
like
Sabbats, we usually do the ritual like at like sunset or dusk.
Yeah. Or sometimes super late in the night because we forgot and then got distracted and then couldn't find the thing that I needed to be able to do the thing, and all of a sudden it's like 11:30 at night. We're doing the ritual. Whatever.
Yeah. Sometimes we decide to do them at midnight, and honestly, that's just too late.
Midnight is midnight's the fun ones.
Midnight's too late. So.
You can tell we have different
usually
bedtimes.
have like a craft associated with it, and especially for Midsummer because we live in like a very like touristy kind of area. We live kind of off the beaten path there, and we have a really, really nice like forest that we live inside of. So we just invite people over, and they just kind of like come and hang out, and they go wander through the forest and kind of connect with the forest however they want.
Yeah.
For me, Midsummer is honoring my connection with the Fae and just like enjoying the beauty of summer before it gets to be like it's so hot I don't want it to be summer again. Although I'm saying that, and we just had like a massive like record-breaking heat wave a couple of days ago, which is why this is being recorded so late, because we were just sweating, sitting, doing nothing, and we were just like, there's no way that we're gonna record during this. So for me, that's what Midsummer is about. It's about connecting with the Fae and taking in the beauty and the bounty of the earth and enjoying the season.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, you know what? I mean, midsummer parties are kind of like my thing. I love a good barbecue. I love a good hanging around, standing there, telling stories, talking about stuff, eating barbecue, drinking beers. Like, I love a good summertime barbecue. Yeah. I love a good beach barbecue if you can do that. That's sort of my jam. We didn't get much of that last year. Obviously, we got none of that.
Yeah, because of the current state of apocalypse, we haven't had any of that stuff in like a year and a half. So there is also that.
But it's definitely like the like sort of social. I love the idea of just like pulling a table out and everybody just having. Having a
just like hanging out and like having a good time,
having a food,
yeah,
like
having a food,
we
doing a craft.
A couple of years ago, we went to, and it wasn't around this time, I don't believe, but we went to the like fire department down the hills barbecue thing, right? And like I just love like hanging out and having barbecue food. I'm a big barbecue person. I love barbecue. Yeah. So
that barbecue was delicious.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I mean,
and there's a lot of like family type celebrations or like community celebrations during this time of year. Like Midsummer always falls around the time of Father's Day. We live in America, so that happens to be around the same time as 4th of July. Like kind of, sort of, not really.
They're close.
But yes,
they're soon.
And there's a lot of other things like that. If you like, family reunions typically happen in the summertime because the weather is nice and beautiful, and there's just like a lot of that kind of like. Outside you can just bring party time relaxed
a bunch of crap to a park and take over.
Yeah, that's what you do. Complete with bouncy house sometimes.
I don't need any of that. But complete with kegs, maybe yes times.
Yeah, maybe not kegs and a bouncy house. That sounds like a recipe for disaster right there.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. No, I've always done like a lot of barbecues and like gone to the like we're doing a thing in the park or we're doing a thing whatever. I mean, we were just talking about with Dad the other day that there was the barbecue thing in Bloomfield or whatever the heck. So it's like it's one of those things where it's like there's always barbecues around these times. Like that's that's the fun part. Yeah,
so it's just finding out where those barbecues are and how you can get to those barbecues.
Yeah, how do you become friends with those barbecue people?
So that you can then have the barbecue.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
I heard you like barbecue, so I barbecued your barbecue.
So let's get that barbecue on.
Yeah, but and like again, like I think 2 years ago when we did Midsummer, we did our ritual like right at sunset.
Yeah, which where we live is like almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's pretty late, 8-ish,
8:39,
something like that. Yeah. So and like again, you can do it in the middle of the day. You can do it in the evening. It's kind of whatever. If you're doing something in the evening and you're having a bonfire, keep a fire extinguisher and use a bunch of water to put the fire out when you're going to bed.
That's right. Make sure that you're practicing fire safety, especially for a fire festival. Yeah. During what is usually fire season.
Don't be dumb about fire, guys. But if you want to do something small or you're like in a place nutritionally where you're not like I'm gonna eat bacchanalian and just go bananas, like when you're like if you're like I'll have a little bit of a thing, you can like have a little bit of a thing and just do your own private thing, whatever time works best for you.
And if you're looking for something,
this isn't one of those you have to do it, and like this is one of if you listen to us, you've heard us say it a million times. Like this is one of those events that some people are gonna write a bunch of rules about it, and you gotta like it's gotta be on the 19th or whatever, and it's gotta be at 11:59 a.m. in your time zone or whatever. Like, and if that's the way that you want to do that, that's gangster. Like, no hate at all. Do that. But like, for me, the like it's like the 19th through the 22nd is really the best answer for like every blot. Is like it's plus or minus a few days. If Bloody Midsummer falls on a work day, like do it the day before when it's not a work day.
Or the day after.
Or the day after, or the weekend in 4 days, because that's when, like, everybody's going to be off work and they can gather.
The gods, the spirits, the magics, they are not going to be upset with you for
you don't need to be judgy about that. If
early.
you think that it's important that you do that way, that's fine. I'm not hating on that. But, work with reality on these things.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you're like in a position where you don't have the time or the ability to do like a big midsummer thing, maybe you're like
Just
in the
do a little
broom
thing.
closet, just do something little, even something where you're like going to go and take a book that you like and go read outside in the sun at the park. And even if you're only going out in the sun for like 5 minutes, for you pale folk that say that you can't be in the sun because you'll get sunburned, I see you. Just spend a little bit of time in it. Just like let it energize you.
Yeah.
Just even little things help.
Have a little
to
meditation
make a
before you go to
practice.
bed. Definitely. It's not the pomposity with which, this isn't the like I got a bigger yacht, so it's none of that nonsense. It's like if your thing is just like a little sit down, meditate, chill space thing because you're in a situation where like you can't be like openly festive, as it were, then just have a little sit and meditate. Go sit out in the sun, go sit in the grass, put some flowers in your hair and or beard.
Yeah.
Love a good beard flower.
And if you want to do a big ritual with the whole thing, go ahead. Have fun with it. Like really just like find a way to make it yours. Your midsummer ideal celebration is going to be different than the next person's and is going to be different from ours, is going to be different than that person over there. So really do something that makes you feel the magic of the season.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, we've got some fun spells for you. And speaking of letting yourself like feel the magic of the season, the first one that we have is charging your tools or any other sort of magical aspects or artifacts, that is, with the power of the sun.
Things.
Magical items.
Yeah, I would say items or things.
Stuffs.
Artifacts gives a degree of pomposity to definitely some shit that I found on the ground.
It makes it sound pretty fancy, doesn't it?
I'm not. I ain't that
To
fancy.
charge your
That was just a rock that was kind of gangster.
Who's its and what's its galore.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna do that thing.
No. No, because we'll get the shit suit out of us.
Please don't strike us for copyright.
Yeah. Papa Big Ears is coming after us, and I don't need that shit, homie.
Yeah, we definitely don't.
I'm not even gonna say their name. It's like fucking Freddy Krueger up in here.
More like Bloody Mary.
Yeah. Whatever.
So to charge your items with the power of the sun, first gather your like tools or crystals or some water, any sigils or other like stuff that you want to charge magically with the sun, and place them outside where they can be in direct sunlight. Some things can't be in direct sunlight, like if you really have like a bar of chocolate that you want.
Gates. Let's talk about things that you should not be putting in direct sunlight. Soft shit that's gonna melt.
Yeah.
A sphere of any degree of clearness is gonna start a damn fire. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Those cool glass balls, don't put them outside.
Don't put it in the sun. Be careful.
Yeah.
And
magnifying glasses as well.
As well as anything that's made of a material that isn't UV stable. Now, and I don't just mean like if you're trying to charge an old 90s plastic toy, right? To think of something that isn't UV stable and it'll become brittle and break. But I'm also thinking about like if you got a dope resin thing, some resins are not UV stable, so they'll start to yellow with long-term exposure. Or like if it's a painting or something, or a photograph, honestly anything, it's gonna like bleach a little, so you're gonna start to degrade the pigment. And I'm not saying like don't take your picture out and charge it in the sun, but be aware of the fact that you may be causing irreparable and deleterious damage to your thing with the sun, which is fine, but, like, if it's an heirloom, you might be slowly bleaching that picture of a grandma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And if you really do want to take something out and you're
I've left some stuff out in the sun and definitely come back depressed.
Don't leave it out all day. Like, it doesn't need to be out all day for it to charge, just like a little boop.
Yeah. Set a timer.
Will do it. So place your items outside where they can be in direct sunlight. If you're putting things on, like, the concrete, maybe put something down first.
Yeah.
You know, like a piece of cloth. Be mindful of how you're placing stuff on the ground. 1, so you don't lose it. 2, so it doesn't break. And 3, to make it easier for you to pick up whatever it is that you're doing. I highly recommend if you're doing this, put like an altar cloth or some sort of piece of cloth.
I'm going to say altar cloth.
Down.
Think of it like an herb, part shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, part shade.
So...
Not
place your items outside and have a seat or stand near them and clear your mind. And then once you have gotten to a good place with your mind, visualize the energy of the sun beaming down on the item and yourself. Also, don't forget about you, charging you with its energy. I find that it's helpful to imagine what the light of the sun would sort of look like. To me, it's kind of like a golden energy, sort of like with flecks of like fiery glitter and stuff. Like I like the glitter. So like imagine that like infusing your items. So they kind of have like a halo almost of like that energy, like an aura. Yeah. And do this for at least like 5 minutes. Give yourself a little bit of time to like really kind of like soak into it. But that doesn't mean that if you have to do it for 5 minutes. You know, you can go shorter, you can go longer. Really, it's whatever you think is best for you. Yeah. But it's not necessary to leave these things out all day or even for several hours. It's pretty unnecessary.
If you're going to be out there with them, like, get the sunscreen on.
Make sure you're
protect your skin.
yourself.
Technically, everybody should wear sunscreen. Skin cancer can happen to all shades of human. I don't put on sunscreen, and that's a thing that I constantly think about. So
yeah, you're always telling me to put on sunscreen.
Yeah, you gotta protect your skin, bros.
Yeah, so do that for like about 5 minutes, and then when you're done, bring the items back inside and store them as you normally would. Yeah. And as time goes on, if you feel that they need to be recharged, again, think about that aura sort of thing. It would dissipate after a while. You can go ahead and take things back outside and charge them again. There's no need to wait very specifically for Midsummer. But the sun is up and out and around for the longest point in time in the year, so it's a pretty easy way to catch the sun.
Yeah, definitely. That's yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's hot. The sun is hot, so I like giving it out there, just not being out there with it. I don't want the sunlight. I like that sunlight what with is filtered by bouncing it off of another bloody rock first, called moonlight. I like that shit. Yeah. That's like the right amount of brightness is moonlight. I don't need all that fucking sun shit. That makes my eyes hurt. Jeez. I get migraines from the light. I don't like it. Okay. We got another spell.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have a Midsummer's Love spell.
I'm not participating in that level of energy about this. That's fucking not kawaii, bro.
Yes, it is. Shut up. So, for this love spell, it is not just about, like, who, like, you're going to love, like, romantically, right? It may be more of
let's start with what the spell is, right? Because the spell is to basically, like, find your love.
Yeah, it's to find your love.
Right? So, but finding your love is sort of incredibly open statement.
Yeah.
Right? So it could be like romantic love, but it could also be like filial love or like a love of an art or a passion, right? So there's not a straight answer for anything that you get to like interpret, right? It's, I mean, like, I know that like you read a you read a magic card, you read a tarot card. Jeez, my brain is melting over here. You read a tarot card, right? And it's like the book says this tarot card means this thing. Yes, right. But also, it could, like the way that we speak our language, be a reference to a thing. It could be, I don't remember what the example we were using when we were talking about this spell while we were kind of formulating it, and like discussing it and whatnot, in the car. But it's that thing where it's like, you might see a person.
How dare you forget about
Who was
John
it? Was it John Rice Davies? Okay. I thought that, and then I was just like, why would we be talking about John Rice Davies? I feel like I'm misremembering something here.
Apparently,
I wasn't.
It was definitely.
Dang.
How dare you forget about
if you see, because this is sort of like visualizing a thing, right? So like, if you see John Rice Davies,
after performing the spell.
After performing this spell, it can be interpreted in a bunch of different ways. So this is what we're gonna do: is I want you to go over the process of the spell, and then I will touch back on interpreting why you love John Rice Davies, which is, I guess, the segment.
I guess
this is a bit I'm just doing because I did it before, I guess.
So to perform this love divination spell, you will want to collect 7 flowers. Traditionally, this is 7 different flowers, but honestly, just like 7 flowers. They could be real flowers, they could be fake flowers. Yeah. We don't care.
You got a bouquet at the store, you got more than 7 flowers.
As long as your intention is there, that is the most important thing. So collect 7 flowers and then place them in a cloth bag, or like fold them up in a piece of tissue paper, or even like, facial tissues, just so it's like sort of soft-ish, because you're going to be putting this packet underneath your pillow later. So now, once you've collected these flowers,
so I guess not 7 thistles.
Yeah, maybe not 7 thistles. Maybe not like a giant
6
protea flower.
6 tiny flowers and the 7th giant man-eating flower.
Yeah, don't pick like 7 giant flowers
your head in there.
And then wrap them in a Sun Chips bag.
Yeah, right? The loudest, most uncomfortable pillow ever.
So, before bed, and you don't have to necessarily collect the flowers before bed, but you have the flowers, they're in their packet. Now, before bed, light a candle, preferably red, but any color. And if you can't do candles, use a different interpretation of that. Yeah.
Just look up the color red on your cell phone, and then when your cell phone is glowing red light.
Yeah, use that. Yeah.
What's up? Right?
You can also use like those little electric candles.
Like legit, I've used that before for like photography. You just look up a hex code color on Google to get like a full screen image to use it to like light something for you to shoot it.
And then just change your brightness.
Yeah, 100% I've done that.
Totally works. So light a candle or use a candle alternative, and then say, either out loud or in your head, as the midsummer sun shines on the land, it illuminates the observable and the obscured. And as you say this, with your finger, draw a symbol of a sun in the air above the packet of the flowers. Yeah. Next, say, as the midsummer moon's glow caresses the land, it reveals the identity of my true love. And as you say this, with your finger, draw a heart in the air above the packet of flowers. And then say, as above...
Anatomical.
Yeah, if you really want to.
Anatomical heart.
Yeah. And then when you're done with that, say, as above, so below, as within, so without. And then place the packet, extinguish the candle, obviously, and then place the packet of flowers beneath your pillow, and you will dream of your true love.
Yeah. So, let's talk about interpreting dream love spell stuff. If you see John Rice Davies, maybe it's because your love is John Rice Davies. Maybe it's because John Rice Davies exemplifies the things you should be looking for in your love.
Now, that said, if you don't know who John Rice Davies is, we invite you to pause this.
Off.
No, we invite you to pause this or open up a new window and look up who John Rice Davies is.
If you're young,
R-H-Y-S
you might
Davies.
not understand what's happening
Gimli
here.
from Lord of the Rings, and he is also a pretty pivotal character in the Indiana Jones franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's in Shogun.
Yeah, once you see him, you'll be like, oh, it's that guy, because he's in a million things.
He's the Spaniard in Shogun.
So,
I love that fucking
John
show.
Rhys Davies.
So, maybe you're in love with John Rhys Davies. Maybe you're in love with the character which John Rhys Davies represents, right? Like, your love needs to be somebody who exemplifies the characteristics that you associate with John Rhys Davies, right? Maybe it's that what you're looking for is somebody who, whether appearance, voice, social interaction, character traits, whatever, reminds you of John Rhys Davies. Maybe it's when you're at the bar and somebody makes an Indiana Jones joke and you're just like, this guy, like, and then you respond with a John Rhys Davies Indiana Jones joke, and they're giving you the like, we're getting jokes back and forth. Maybe that's what we're talking about, right? So like, the interpretation of this isn't necessarily like I dreamed of Jake, and now Jake and I are in love forever. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, maybe that's what that is, right? But it could also be a bunch of other things.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, everything's super up for interpretation on this, but the idea is that regardless of sort of how that interpretation falls, and like, if you feel that, like, you're not in love with Jake, but like Jake's a cool cat and you want to be in love with somebody like Jake or what have you, right? Like, if that's how you feel about that dream, then go with that. That's how you feel, dog. Like,
yeah, is there like some sort of like
right?
personality trait that person possesses that is particularly fantastic?
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you're dreaming about maybe if you're not dreaming of a person, you're dreaming about a situation that would happen.
Yeah.
Perhaps you're dreaming about something that would be like a symbolic callback to. So, like, maybe you dream about John Rhys Davies in Indiana Jones, and, you know, like, a few months later, you're hanging out at the bar with your friends, and you, like, are drinking
club or wherever
a beer
people hang
or
out.
whatever,
Park.
and on the TV is Indiana Jones, and
Park
that
TVs would be way
night,
more interesting.
somebody wants to buy you a drink. Like, maybe that's the answer.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of different ways to look at interpretation.
Also, just because you looked at it now doesn't mean that it's going to change in the future, because time is still a thing.
It also doesn't mean that it's going to make
something...
sense now.
Well, yeah, you may see something and you're just like, I don't really get this. And then in like 20 years, you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, I mean, that makes sense now, if you put it that way.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, like, time makes fools of us all in every possible way, so...
Yeah. So, like, this is a really good reason to keep a Book of Shadows.
Yeah.
Because a Book of Shadows is sort of like your magical journal, in a sense, and it doesn't necessarily have to be written, it can be electronic.
Yeah.
But this is why it's a good idea to write this down. So you would want to write down, like, the date, and, like, what it is that you did, and what it is that you saw, and then...
What flowers you
when
picked.
you're writing down what it is that you saw, or the divination side of it, you really want to be a little bit, like, just the facts, ma'am, about it, because what you're thinking that it is, if you dreamt about Ryan Reynolds, that doesn't mean that you're gonna marry Ryan Reynolds someday, right? That doesn't mean you're not gonna marry Ryan Reynolds someday.
We all dream about Ryan Reynolds.
But you want to be like, oh, I dreamt about Ryan Reynolds, and then any particular, like, things about the dream that you remember, like...
Was it Deadpool Ryan Reynolds?
Was it Deadpool?
Was it his mouth sewn shut Wolverine Deadpool Ryan Reynolds?
Was it Ryan Reynolds Waiting? Was it Rien Reynolds Green Lantern?
Yeah.
Was it John Rhys Davies? Was he Gimli? Or was
it Ryan Reynolds Aviation Gin commercials on YouTube?
So you
Ryan
don't
Reynolds?
want your own hopes, your own feelings to cloud what it is that you're getting out of it. So when you write this stuff down, you want to get that information, the sort of the bullet point facts of what happened out. And then
bullet points, and then underneath bullet points,
you can put all of that stuff. And it's a good idea to come back and to visit that stuff later on, because what you think it may be now doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the same thing that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Right? And that's very, very par for the course when it comes to any sort of divination stuff.
Right,
and
yeah.
some of it's just kind of like getting the hang of it, but sometimes divination stuff has multiple meanings. Maybe it means one thing to you now and it means something to you later, or maybe you just like look at it and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense at all. I dreamt about zombies, so why am I gonna fall in love with a zombie? What does that mean?
And that's not a bad movie, though.
May
where she falls in love with a zombie.
There's a few of them. And
Yeah.
you may find later that totally makes sense. You know, you just have this moment where you're like, oh, that's what that meant. And that can take years sometimes. It's not necessarily a fast and an easy thing, especially when you're looking for the answer to a question that is so important, but also so like not temporally based as what or who your true love is.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it could be about your true love of jazz, or your true love of wood carving. Like, you know, love comes in many forms. You know all the stuff. We all know this stuff.
Yeah.
So, write it down is really the flippin' secret on this one. Just bloody write it down.
Yeah,
you know?
write it down.
Yeah. All right. So I guess next up we've got
correspondences.
Yeah.
Woohoo! All right. So these are our Midsummer correspondences.
So buckle up. This is 400 hours of this now.
Buckle up. It's just me reading a list. No, I've
No, we par it down. If you want the full list, it's on the Patreon on the Book of Shadows page.
Yeah, this is just an abbreviated list that I read to give you guys the idea, but if you want the full list, it's associated with our Book of Shadows pages, which you can get through our Patreon. So, animals associated with Midsummer are bees, butterflies, dragons, and satyrs. Colors would be blue, gold, and green. With a Y, like pan. Satyrs.
Yeah.
Satyrs?
I'm sorry, are you saying satyrs and satyrs are different things?
I don't know, depends on how you're spelling it.
I think they're the same thing. I don't
know.
Yeah, now I have to know.
So colors.
Maybe I thought they were
blue,
wrong.
gold, and green. For stones and for crystals, you're looking at citron, fluorite, lapis lazuli, jade, and tiger's eye. As far as plants go, and herbs and such, basil, elder, like elderberries, elderflowers. Fern is really common, as we talked about before with finding the fern flower. Lavender is too. That's in season right now in the summer. Orange, sunflower, and lang lang. As far as foods go, like we talked about, barbecue. We've got fruits and honey.
I like that barbecue is a food.
Barbecue? Well, it's a specific method of cooking something. Honey.
With fire.
Sangria also is really popular for these kinds of things.
I mean, it's just flipping fruit wine. Yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah.
It's just wine and fruit.
Seafood, summer squashes as well.
Yeah.
For deities, there's a ton of deities. Really, you're looking at deities of the sun as well as deities of, like, marriage and fertility, and particularly pregnant deities as well. Yeah. So Amaterasu, Baldur, Cernunnos, Eos, Freya, the Green Man, Isis, Helios, and Ra are all really popular for Midsummer. Yeah. And other symbols are the idea of an eternal flame. So really anything that's like a flame or a fire. Fairies, again, much like Beltane. Fertility rites, and obviously fire. This is a very masculine energy kind of a thing, but that doesn't mean that you can't go with feminine energy type of objects. It's just an idea that you can use. Yep. And shells, both snail shells and sea shells are very popular symbols for Midsummer.
Cool. So that's our list of correspondences.
Yeah.
This has been Midsummer. I think I'm legally obligated to say the word Midsummer because some people say it that way. Yeah, but that's not even how we're spelling it, so that's not what we're talking about. Nope. Also, I feel like I have to bring up the A24 movie Midsummer, or Midsommar, whichever one you want to call it, man. Is a hate-free zone, but it's a fucking great movie. Go watch it. If you do, I guess, horror movies. I mean, it's a thriller.
It's generally considered a horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not like a monster or something. It's just that like. It's.
I mean,
it's
really,
Midsummer,
it's
too.
one of those the people were the monsters all along, kind of things.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It has a lot of really interesting ties to paganism and heathenry, as well as it has some really interesting representations of what
Very
Midsummer rituals
awesome.
would be. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what Midsummer rituals are, but what they could be.
What they could be.
And
yeah.
things that you can take from them.
Yeah, right.
Like a giant flower
It's still
crown.
a movie, so you know
Yeah.
it's fine. Let's all be adults here.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's a really good one. It's super beautiful, like awesome costumes. They actually built that village.
Yeah.
We just watched like a behind the scenes thing the other day about it, so that's why I'm remembering all this stuff. But yeah, definitely watch that movie. It's really, really good. And I guess what's coming up next, and then I'll just outro and we can fucking start editing. Well, I can start
next
editing.
episode was going to be a brief look at the Olympian family tree.
Yeah.
So we've previously done a deep dive on Aphrodite as well as some other deities.
Yeah.
And one of the things we're going to incorporate into the deities series that we're doing essentially is a family tree, so that maybe you're really drawn to a pantheon or you want to understand more about it. We'll give you a pretty good overview of who they are and who they are in it and what they do, so that you can decide if you want to learn more.
A very brief overview of who they are, because we don't want to be here for that long. But we're going to give you a brief overview of who they are.
Yeah.
And then the more important thing in a family tree is going to be, like, who are they married to? Who's their kids? Who killed them? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna be looking at that and kind of going through that sort of person for person, and then of course we have our deep dives on the individual people, which we have a few, and we're gonna be doing more.
Yeah.
And that's where you get that's where you're getting the stories, and we're getting the all the like more specific information about that individual god. Because for this one we're gonna have to cover like a bunch.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
And it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours for just one god.
Yeah.
So it'll be a pretty brief overview. But we're going to be talking about the Olympians, which is the Greek pantheon, including like Zeus and Aphrodite and Hera and all of them. So I think that's going to be a really fun episode.
Yeah. Yeah, but either way, thank you for joining us for all this kind of stuff. I am John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast.
I was ready that time.
There you go. She was ready, guys. And don't forget if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, and do all that kind of stuff. If you're listening to us on a podcast network, please subscribe and leave us a review. That's how we know that you listen to us.
Yeah.
Because
and if you want to,
podcasting analytics are a fucking joke.
Yeah. And if you want to interact with us, ask us questions, or support these ventures, check out nerdjive.com/links, and that'll point you to our social media, our Patreon, and our Etsy shop.
Yeah, and if you want to join our Patreon and get support us doing more of this stuff, but also that's how you get access to our Book of Shadows pages, where we have like show notes and the full list of correspondences and all that kind of stuff on like some fun backgrounds that I do.
And copies of all the spells.
Yeah.
They are beautiful and totally able to be printed out or just like saved onto your device.
They're available in PDF format, so you'll be able to do all that stuff with those, and also get access to some dope cell phone wallpaper backgrounds, because I had to do all this work to make graphics, so why not give myself a cool cell phone background?
That's right.
I literally do this for me and then just share it because it looks dope.
Yep.
Yeah. That's really what I'm just like, this would be a great idea. I'm going to do this. And then I do it. But, either way, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening.
And we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Stay magical, folks.
Stay magical.